All right, so in the wake of the flurry of suspicious packages being sent to prominent Democrats and CNN, and the media is rushing to blame the president, talk radio, Fox News, the GOP. Meanwhile, conservative Congressman Steve Scalise, he was the victim of a gruesome political violence, and he's out with a new op-ed. After bombing attempts, all must agree that violence and terror have no place in politics. He joins us now along with the author of the new book, Jesus is Risen, a New York Times bestseller, Paul and the Early Church, David Limbaugh, also an attorney of mine. Steve, I knew more. By the way, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, she was run out of a movie theater. We're going to get to Pam. Sorry, Pam. Steve, you know, I know how bad your situation was, especially the first 48 hours. I think I had been hearing that you were having massive blood transfusions. You were literally on the verge of death. We found out later the shooter was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I said on the air, I'd never blame Bernie Sanders because one of his supporters would ever act in a crazy, violent way. I think you agree with me.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And the point is, you know, there are crazy people. We don't know who's responsible here. But you're also right in saying this has got to stop. I don't even think that we should allow the public in the halls of Congress anymore after what we saw in the Kavanaugh hearings. Do you agree with that?
No, you still want to have the House and the Senate be places where the public can come. But, you know, if somebody tries to act up and disrupt the hearing, they should be arrested. And
they won't let them get into an elevator?
Again, if somebody is going to try to assault somebody, those are crimes, and they ought to be arrested, prosecuted. But look, I mean, one of the things you're seeing right now, we all should be condemning what's happening with these bomb devices that are being sent. But the left shouldn't just be angry about this when they're silent about attacks on conservatives. I have been very vocal against attacks on conservatives or Democrats, Republicans or Democrats. Doesn't matter. There's no place for it in politics. But don't just come out and denounce it when it's somebody on the left getting attacked and be silent when it's somebody on the right. This is a time for all of us to come together and say this isn't who America is. We're not just going to look the other way on one side, but only be concerned when it affects us. All of us should be concerned when anybody is trying to be threatened or attacked based on their political views, regardless of what the views are.
You know, Pam, I watched what happened when you were trying to see a movie. We saw Sarah Sanders and her kids and her family. We saw Secretary Nielsen. We saw this weekend Mitch McConnell, guy banging on his table, stealing his food, throwing it out the door. A boulder through Kevin McCarthy's office window. We've seen Ted Cruz and his wife run out of restaurants. And what's sad is there was virtual silence. You could see this building, you know, and nobody, it only seems to some in the media or the left, it only seems to matter. They were okay with the mob violence. CNN saying, don't say mob violence. It looked like mob violence, what has been happening.
Of course it was mob violence. And, you know, Representative Scalise said it best in his op-ed, and it was beautiful, Steve, what you wrote. He said violence and terror have no place in politics nor in our society. And it's a shame that after what happened to him, he's even having to write that now, that this is still going on. Sean, you and I have been saying for how long this is going to happen again. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. Everybody just has to call a timeout on this horrible, horrible language. And you know, Eric Holder, I know that man, and for him to say kick them when they're down, it's disgusting. And it doesn't matter what side it's coming from. It just has to stop on all sides. Someone is going to get hurt.
You know, I look at, for example, you know, Russia collusion. You know what? There is no Trump-Russia collusion, but Hillary did pay for Russian lies that was used to disseminate lies to the American people. It was used to secure FISA warrants and commit a fraud on the court. It was used to help set up, you know, through a media leak strategy, the special counsel, Robert Mueller. No, the left never wanted to talk about that. The left only cares about assault sexually when it's Kavanaugh, but not Keith Ellison, Bill Clinton, or Cory Booker and an allegation that's been made against him. And the same here. You know, why can't we just have some basic fundamental rules here? Shouldn't the Kavanaugh rule apply to everybody? Shouldn't Russia collusion apply to Hillary, too?
Well, that's our due process.
David.
I agree with Congressman Scalise and Pam Bondi. The problem that I see here is the left, as usual, always uses these opportunities to exploit these things politically. When Trump came out and denounced this violence and called for unity, they jumped on him because he wouldn't condemn himself. You had Pelosi and Schumer just outright said, Trump needs to condemn himself before we'll even accept this. And the left always rushes to blame conservatives. They did it with Sarah Palin, saying she painted a bullseye on someone, and then that led to violence. Now they're saying these bombs are a direct result of Trump's vitriolic statements. They don't take responsibility. The media and the left don't take responsibility for their own negativity, their own lambasting of Trump 24 hours a day on the news. And it's just outrageous, and that's got to stop, too. Violence isn't the only problem.
You know, Steve Scalise, I just got to say at this point, after all you've been through, you still have a hard time walking, don't you?
Yeah, I'm still doing physical therapy a few days a week to build my strength back up and get to where hopefully I don't have to walk with a crutch, and that's my next goal. So I'm working towards that, but get better every day, and God's been great to me, and I'm lucky to be alive.
Pam, how is it that the left claims a monopoly on compassion for women in particular, champions of women, but it's only Kavanaugh that gets the Kavanaugh standard, and all the women that have been thrown out of restaurants, they were kind of silent. Including you were thrown out of a movie theater or chased out of one.
And then Maxine Waters doubled down on it afterwards. It's absurd, and they need to stop. And the president has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, David, last word.
Yeah, there's no pleasing the left. They want to keep these issues stirred up because they don't have any substantive political issues on which they can win. And they're really desperate right now before this election. They're very nervous, so they've got to keep this rhetoric revved up and politicized, and it's shameful. We all condemn it. I agree with the other two guests. We condemn all violence from anybody.
I said at the time I wanted Obama protected. When that guy ran into the White House, what are we doing? We got to protect our president. I said it many, many times. Goes for Maxine Waters. That goes for Nancy Pelosi. Anybody. You know what? People have a chance in this country. We have a ballot box, and we have an election in 12 days. Make your opinions known there. Thank you all. Appreciate it.